Welcome back to another episode of the Productivity Show. My name is Tam. I'm the founder and CEO of Asian Efficiency. And today I have my co-host Brooks Duncan with me. How are you today, Brooks?
I'm great. The people who listen to this, who know me, know I always like it when we get a little geeky on our episode, when we're able to bust out a technical episode. So I'm very happy today.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about browsers and some of our favorite browser hacks, browser extensions, how we use it, some of our favorite keyboard shortcuts that you definitely want to know. But before we start diving into today's topic, one of the things we always like to do is share some of our favorite resources when it comes to productivity. So I have three of them here today. The first one is also related to our topic today, and that is an extension called Momentum Dash, which is only available on Chrome for now. And what this extension does is anytime you start your browser, it shows you a beautiful photo from a professional photographer. And it has usually an inspirational quote there as well. So every day when you look at it, there's something new there. And you can even put like a reminder for yourself there or one thing or one task that you want to work on that day. So it's a really handy and beautiful extension that I highly recommend you use. And I know, Brooks, you use it as well. So we've mentioned it on the podcast before, but it deserves its own shout out here as well. The next one is another extension called Ad Block. So AD Block. So this particular extension blocks ads on websites and also particular videos that you might be watching. So if you ever thought about, oh man, I don't want to watch those ads on YouTube, well, Ad Block will block them for you. If you don't want to see ads on other websites, like you're watching or reading a newsletter or a newspaper somewhere, and you don't want to see all the ads, typically Ad Block will block them from the website as well. And so I highly recommend this. I've been using this for probably 7-8 years. So to me, it's like the most normal thing in the world. But sometimes I forget people don't have this. So if you're one of those, I definitely recommend you check out AdBlock. And the third one, which is unrelated, something completely different, is a book called The Pyramid Principle by Barbara Minto. So this is a blue book. It has a blue cover. So if you ever see it in the store, it's called The Pyramid Principle. And it's all about logical thinking. So this book walks you through kind of like a set of tools that you can use to logically think about problems and challenges that you might be having. And so if you find yourself oftentimes dealing with tough decisions, things you want to strategize on, or challenges you're running into, logical thinking skills, I think, are so underrated, or as some people like to call them, critical thinking skills. This book is a really great resource because it has a different set of tools that'll show you how to use in different scenarios. It's kind of a dense read. It's not an easy read, but it's a very helpful read. So definitely recommend The Pyramid Principle. And so we will link to everything that we just discussed in the show notes. So don't worry if you miss something. If you're listening to us outside a podcast app, you can go to theproductivityshow.com/334 and get all the links there. Or if you're listening to us in an app, just swipe and you'll see the links there as well.
All right, so today we are going to be talking about our favorite browser hacks. And we're really excited about this one because if you think about it, what is the app that you use more than any other? I think for most of us, it's probably a web browser. It's where many of us get a lot of our productivity done and our leisure as well. So it just makes more sense to be as productive as you can while working with your browser, because that'll have knock-on effects throughout everything else you do throughout the day. So we're going to be talking about our favorite browser hacks. That doesn't just mean like plugins and extensions. I mean, we will be talking about some of those as well, but we know that a lot of people, your computer might be locked down, or maybe you're just not comfortable installing things in your browser, which we totally get. So we're going to be sharing some built-in features that you might not be aware of as well. You don't have to install anything to get a lot out of this episode. And even if you're already like a big extension and plugin user, no problem at all. I'm sure we're going to have some little tips and stuff like that. One of these I mentioned to Tan once, and it's now his favorite thing ever. So even if you've been using browsers for years and years and years, I bet you're going to get something out of this that you can put to use right away. And that's the nice thing about these browser hacks. It's something that you can like literally start using the second you stop listening to this episode. You don't have to go find something. You can get going right away. So I want to give a quick shout out as well to our TPS Plus members. So TPS Plus is our special our special edition of the Productivity Show. So you get your episodes a week early. You get them without ads, even though we love our advertisers, but sometimes you just want to have a more focused experience. So no ads, and you get access to our private show notes that Tan and I and Marmel, when she's here, use to record the episodes as well. So those are popular as well. So if you want to learn more, you can go to theproductivityshow.com/plus. And if you join the annual plan, you get this one tweak a week t-shirt that I'm wearing right now. And that has proved to be really, really popular. People have been sending us pictures of their shirts who are TPS Plus annual members. So yeah, Tan, just out of curiosity, so we're going to be talking about browsers, obviously. So probably a good place to start is, I don't really know this about you. What browsers do you use on the different platforms that you use?
So I use Chrome on the desktop and then Safari on iOS. So on the desktop, I like to use Chrome because I found it to be very fast and efficient, and also the extensions makes it really powerful. And sometimes Safari is faster in certain occasions, depending which upgrade you are on in terms of Mac OS. Safari sometimes can be faster, but because Chrome has been just really consistent and it has lots of extensions that make my browser experience very efficient, I've been sticking to Chrome on there. And since I don't really do much on my phone or on my tablet in terms of browsing, I just stick to Safari because it's just the built-in tool. Has all the basic extensions that I need, which I'll talk about today as well. And if I want to be a power user, I would go for Chrome. If you just want to be a basic, hey, I just need this kind of user, then Safari, I think, is suffice.
Yeah, I'm a Chrome user as well. I keep saying that I'm gonna, and I use Safari on the Mac as well, and Safari on the Mac as well. I keep saying I'm gonna dump Chrome for Safari because Chrome can be a bit of a battery hog and a memory hog. So Safari is better in that way. However, same thing for me is I use a lot of Chrome extensions that really make it a great experience for me. And I use a lot of Chrome's features, some of which we'll be talking about in this episode, that I could switch to Safari. It's not like I couldn't, but I just, these features just keep me on Chrome for now. On Windows, I tend to use Chrome or Edge. Edge comes with Windows as well. And on iOS, I use Safari. Of course, you have no choice. It's there. I do have Chrome on my iPhone and my iPad for the occasional time where something doesn't quite work right in Safari. Sometimes it works better in Chrome, but that's not very common. Usually I just roll with Safari.
All right, so we have 5 different browser hacks here, and I know you and I have both, each and every one, battle tested everything. And so I'm curious to hear your first tip here, Brooks, or your first browser hack. What's that for you?
Yeah, well, a couple of minutes ago, I said that you don't need to install anything to get a lot out of this episode, but I'm going to go against that right now, and I'm going to talk about a extension. So, and the extension I'm going to recommend is called Dark Reader. So Dark Reader is a extension for Chrome, Safari, Firefox, and Edge. It's not a Chrome only thing. And for me, anyone who has seen screenshots of stuff that I've produced probably has picked up that I am a big fan of dark mode. I have dark mode engaged almost everywhere on my computer. I just find it looks better. It's easier on the eyes. So I'm a big dark mode fan. The only thing is when you go online using a web browser, you've got your beautiful dark mode system set up, and then you start going to some web pages and then white light is blasting at you because while your computer might be in dark mode, the web for the most part is certainly not. So dark mode is a browser extension that will turn almost any website to dark mode. So it works incredibly well, actually. But if you have a case where there's a site where you don't want it to be dark for whatever reason, maybe it just doesn't look right, or maybe you just want it to look quote unquote normal, you can exclude certain websites from that. Or on the flip side, you can have it turned off and just enable it for certain websites. So if you're a dark mode fan, check out Dark Reader. It's a really popular extension on the Chrome Web Store and other web stores as well. And you'll have dark mode everywhere.
So what you're saying is if I were to go to Wikipedia using Dark Reader and turn it on, Wikipedia would look all black-ish. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, it'll flip the black and white, and it does a surprisingly good job. And it has settings where you can tweak a bunch of stuff, but that's exactly right. If you want Wikipedia in dark mode, Dark Reader will help you do that.
Awesome. I personally am not a big fan of dark mode at all, so I'm going to stay away from that particular plugin. But I'm glad you like it, and I'm sure tons of other TPS Plus listeners and TPS listeners would love it as well. So again, we'll have links that everything that we mentioned here is going to be linked here in the show notes. So don't worry if you miss something. So as far as my recommendation for this one is a plugin called Evernote Web Clipper. So if you're an Evernote user, I would highly recommend that you check out this web clipper that you install for your browser. And it's available on every single browser out there, so not just particular to one particular browser. And the way I use this web clipper is pretty much, first of all, I use it almost every day. And the way it works is anytime you're on a page, you can save that page inside Evernote. So you can just literally click a button and it will save it. But it can also ask you for different options in terms of how you want to save it. Maybe you just want to take a screenshot of this particular section that you see on the screen. Maybe you actually want to just save the article, not the whole website itself, but you just want the content of it, and it can just figure out a way to save that for you. Or you can say, hey, I just want to save the whole page, and then we'll do that for you as well. And I use this in so many different occasions. For example, anytime I book a flight, instead of writing down my confirmation number somewhere, I know I will get an email copy of it, but I also like to save it just in case in my Evernote. And so I'll just click Evernote and we'll just save it in there, and I'm good to go, right? And another example is maybe I look at like a landing page somewhere, like a product page of another product, and I think, wow, this is really beautiful. I think this is something we should use at Agent Efficiency. So I'm studying other people's websites and marketing copy, and I'll oftentimes save that as well. Also advertising examples. Also, a lot of times if you buy certain goodies or items, for example, clothing, and you buy it on a website, you might find that those pages don't exist in a few weeks or in a few months, but you still want to keep a copy of like the screenshots, or maybe like the way the model was wearing a particular sweater that you just bought. Or if that good is an exclusive item, it might not be on the website in a few weeks. So you want to make sure you save all the information, like the dimensions of the products, like the color code and all these other little details, right? And so anytime I buy something like that, I always try to save those pages as well, so that if I try to, for example, resell that product later, maybe because I don't want to use it anymore or it's not for me, I have all that information in front of me. So that makes it really easy to resell stuff. And so again, if you are an Evernote user, I highly recommend you really check out this clipper and use it on a daily basis, because it will save you so much time and you don't have to write stuff down anymore. It's really simple. And if you're an Evernote user, like this is just a natural extension of just making your capture process a lot smoother. Do you have this one, Brooks?
Literally right before turning on Zoom to record this episode, I used it to clip a article about somebody who did a month-long walk across Japan. And I just thought it was really interesting. And I don't know if I'm doing a month-long walk across Japan anytime soon, but it's something I wanted to capture to Evernote. So that's what I did. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Evernote web clipper as well. Even if you don't use Evernote, there's a OneNote web clipper, there's a Notion web clipper. So the general concept is, if there's things that you come across online that you want to save, highly recommend using one of these web clippers, whether it's Evernote or whatever, to take control of that information. This actually came in really handy for me because I think I've told this story on the blog. I don't know if I've told it on the podcast before, but somehow I got in the job every Christmas of making this big vegan trifle. So trifle is a dessert. I think it's English. And I make it every single year. It's basically the one thing I make every year. And so when the first time I made it, I captured all the recipes and stuff like that for the trifle, for the vegan whipped cream, all that sort of stuff. I captured it to Evernote, and I was really happy I did, because this last Christmas, I just wanted to go back and check the sites if anything had changed. And a bunch of the sites from this recipe are totally gone. Like, I don't know what happened to the website, but it's gone. But it doesn't matter because I have it all saved in Evernote. So Evernote Web Clipper saved Christmas this year.
Now, I will make a quick distinction that if I want to read an article at a later time, I typically use Pocket for that. So I won't use Evernote for that. I typically like to think of Evernote as something that I want to store forever and reference. Whereas if I just read an article on cnbc.com, or for example, or asianefficiency.com, right? And you go, oh yeah, I want to read that article later. I would typically store it in Pockets because then I will access it on my phone or on my tablet whenever I'm traveling. And that's when I usually catch up on articles in my backlog. And then typically, if it's like really that important and I want to reference it, then I'll transfer it even from Pocket to Evernote. But if I just want to read content, I typically use Pocket myself. And I think you're a Pocket user as well, right?
I don't use Pocket. I use Instapaper, but it's the same concept. I don't use the Evernote Web Clipper for articles I want to read later. It's like you said, for things I want to store theoretically forever. It's my more long-term storage versus kind of like the ephemeral things to read. Yeah, I do the exact same thing.
Oh man, you're an Instapaper user? I don't think we can hang out anymore, Brooks.
Oh, this is what finally did it, hey?
No, I love Instapaper as well. I used it for many years, so nothing against it. I don't know why I switched over. I think it was just there was like one particular feature. I think it was the mailing feature or something that got me moved over. But they basically do the same thing. So whether you use Instapaper or Pocket, you're in good hands. Don't worry.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to our second round here of recommendations. And I'm going to start off here with a plugin as well. Don't worry, we do have other tips and strategies coming later that don't require plugins. But if you are someone who uses 1Password or LastPass, both are password managers, I highly recommend you install the browser plugins that they provide. So personally, I'm a big user of 1Password. I've used LastPass for many years as well. For many years, I used 1Password for my personal use and then LastPass at Asian Efficiency. And then I think at the beginning of this year or earlier of part of 2020, we switched over from LastPass to 1Password on the company level. So now everything is on 1Password. And man, I don't know how I would be able to browse around, get stuff done, be efficient filling in forms, logging into my email accounts without this browser plugin, right? If you use 1Password and LastPass, I also recommend you install it on your phone. I think this is where you get the biggest win. Like, it's already a big win on the desktop, but when you can install like 1Password on your phone as well, anytime you're browsing a website, you need to log in or you need to fill in your credit card info. You can do that with 1Password on your phone by just having the extension installed, right? So I remember, for example, I was flying on Southwest and I wanted to hop on the internet. And like my wallet was in my bag and I was in the overhead cabin. I was like, oh no, I don't want to stand up and take my bag out and then figure out a way to, find it and then, take the credit card out, which, the person next to me could see what those numbers potentially might be and so on. Right. And so what I did was, oh yeah, I had this thing in my 1Password saved. And so since it's on my phone, all synced up, I would just log in on the Southwest website to purchase internet access, used 1Password to log in, and then because I was able to use the credit card in 1Password onto the website without manually pressing stuff, just by tapping on a few things, I was able to get on the internet and never grab my backpack or wallet, and was able to get on the internet on the plane, and had a pleasant flight ever since then. So you can use this for all sorts of logins, like if you want to log into your company website, to your email accounts, if you want to save pre-check information in there, like whatever you want to save, you can access it very quickly and securely from your phone or from your desktop onto different websites. So I highly recommend it, especially if you need to fill out forms. Like if you ever get tired of filling your first name, last name, email address, phone number, and so on, with 2 or 3 taps, you can have that all filled in using something like 1Password. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and I use 1Password as well. We used to use LastPass, as you said, but now we're all 1Password. I use it for personal with my family, and then also we use it with the company as well. And you're right, it's super handy. And the thing is, Safari has password stuff built in. Chrome has password stuff built in as well. But I like using a tool like 1Password because then it's more portable. You can use it whether you use Safari or Chrome, whether you use Mac or Windows. It's available in more places. So that's why I like using a third-party tool for that. If you're only going to use it in the browser, with the built-in tools, it's better than nothing. Using some sort of password manager is better than nothing. But I also really, really like 1Password, and I like having like you said, the logins, the credit card stuff, and the secure notes as well. I use a lot for stuff like my kids' school information, our health numbers, our passport numbers, these little things that you don't need all the time, but having them securely in there is so great because when you do need it, then you don't have to go digging through a filing cabinet trying to find a passport or whatever to get the number. Like it's all right there. You can copy it on your phone or on your computer, like you said, and just do it right away. You don't have to go digging around. So yeah, big fan of 1Password.
Yeah, I don't know how people are navigating stuff on their phone without something like this. I could just imagine it'd be so painfully slow, especially if you're someone who has unique passwords on different websites. Like you want to use something like this. I just have to remember one password, hence the name of the app, which I think is so smart, by the way. But I just have to remember one password, and then I have like a unique password for my Gmail, a unique password for my Hotmail, unique password for my IRS account, a unique password for X, Y, and Z, right? So I don't remember any of these, but thanks to 1Password, I can access everything and it's securely stored. And if there is ever a hack somewhere on the website, you know that you only use one unique password for that particular website, right? And so I know a lot of people reuse the same password on many different websites. So if you ever get hacked somewhere and they can find your password, they can log into all of your accounts, which is, a big security concern. So we should do a whole different episode on just password managers at some point because we can geek out about that. But that's a great browser extension to have. So definitely install it both on your phone and computer. So Brooks, what is your next recommendation here?
All right. So before I get into my next recommendation, we record these episodes live in front of our Dojo members, which is our community, and TPS Plus members, which we talked about earlier. We've got a lot of great feedback and support. Emily has my back saying Instapaper is great. And then Kimberly has my back saying Dark Reader is great. But they also agree that LastPass on the phone is super, super powerful. So they agree with you there. And Phil is a 1Password guy. So glad to know the people in the live stream are big users of all these tools as well. All right, so my second pick is not a plugin or an extension. It's a feature of some, not all browsers, and that is the concept of having multiple user profiles. So in Chrome and Edge, this is called personas, and I believe Firefox calls it profiles. But generally, the idea is you can have different users in your browser. So each one can have different settings, different shortcuts, different saved passwords, different history, different all sorts, connected to, say, a different Google account or something like that. It's almost like having two different browsers, but within Chrome or within Firefox or whatever. So I use this all the time. So for example, I have a personal persona, which is all my, my personal stuff, but I also have an AE persona. So I flip between them, and then I have, on the, say for my agent efficiency one, I have bookmarks to different spreadsheets and stuff like that, different tools that we use. So when I'm working, they're all there ready for me. But then when I flip to my personal one, I have my personal ones. And I just find it really, really powerful to be able to have things exactly how you want them, but focus on a specific context. I also have it persona set up for my kids because sometimes they need to use my computer to like log into Microsoft Teams and print something out or submit homework or something like that. And I don't want them messing around and logging in on my main profiles, and then I have to log out and stuff like that. So I created profiles for them as well. So it's just great for keeping things segregated. So yeah, big fan of profiles. Use it every single day. On the Mac, you can use this is something I set up, a tool called Keyboard Maestro, which I know you're a fan of as well. You can set up a Keyboard Maestro shortcut to be able to flip between personas through using your keyboard. So all day long, I'm going, I think it's caps lock Command A or caps lock Command P to flip between my profiles, and it just becomes like total muscle memory. Do you use profiles at all?
I use it, but not to the degree that you do it. I do like the idea of having separate profiles so you can kind of separate personal and work stuff. I like the idea that you can have like separate bookmark bars. Like I'm a big bookmark bar user myself, so I have all these shortcuts. And if you've ever seen my screen sharing, you'll notice like, oh, there's like, you know, stuff there that we use all the time at AE, and then like ESPN or something, because I like to keep up with sports and stuff like that. So to me, like I personally only use like one profile on my computer. However, I have a secondary profile for my personal assistant that's here in Austin. So anytime she comes over and she needs to work on my laptop or do some research or something, then we'll switch it over to her profiles, and she can kind of like go around and you know, do research and log into accounts that she has. But that way she doesn't access my accounts that way, or private data that's there. And so I find that a really useful use case in that sense. But since, you know, she only comes here like once a week for a few hours, most of the time I'm just using one profile. But the times I do use it, it's just for my personal assistant. And once I kind of discovered that, it made it a lot easier, because in the past I would be like, okay, let me clear my cookies and like log out of all these websites and blah 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 blah, so that she could use this computer for like that particular moment. And then when she left, anytime I wanted to go back to my websites, I would then have to log in again, and so on, right? And so having a profile is really useful for that. So anytime if you have someone using the same computer, I would highly recommend setting a profile for them. Like in the past, I would even have a separate profile on the computer level, right? So like on the Mac, you can have like, you know, different profiles for people to log into, but this is like a much quicker way to kind of address the same thing, because oftentimes, you know, they just need to browse the web for basic things that they need. So this is a much more efficient use, I find.
Phil on the live stream asked an interesting question, which is, when you switch profiles, does that log you out of the other profile, or can it log you out, like appear logged out? I don't think so. It doesn't. Opening up one profile doesn't shut down the other one. I don't think it's just more additive. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think it works that way. If somebody knows differently, you can let me know. But I don't think it does that, unless your logged in status is tied to, say, your focus. That's a different story.
All right, let's go to our third set of recommendations here. Let's talk about keyboard shortcuts, Brooks. I know you have a bunch of keyboard shortcuts you like. I know I have a bunch of them. What are some keyboard shortcuts that you like?
Yeah, big fan of keyboard shortcuts. Dojo member Matt recommended this tip as well. And for me, most browsers, I think, support this nowadays. And it's the ability to go flip between certain specific tabs by number. So, you know, when you have, let's say you have 5 tabs open, the leftmost one is number 1, the rightmost one is number 5. You can go Command 2 to go to the second tab. You can go Command 1 to go to the first tab. So from 1 to 9, you can jump between your different tabs. And I use this all the time. It's so handy when you're working on different things and you can just like flip back and forth between specific tabs, or maybe you have some sort of startup routine that opens a window with tabs in a specific order. Then you always know, like, your webmail tab is number 1. You always know that your calendar is number 2, something like that. You can just use muscle memory to flip between them. So going 1 to 9, it's Command on the Mac, Control on Windows. Definitely works in Chrome. I believe it works in Safari as well. And since Edge is built on Chrome, I'm going to say it must work on Edge as well, although I haven't tested that out. So big fan of numbered tabs for jumping back and forth. How about you? What are some of your faves?
Yeah, I use that one as well. I will say it only works if you're like me and Brooks and you don't have like 84 different tabs open. If you do have 84 different tabs open, again, you can only go through 1 through 9, right? So you have to kind of know what the first 9 are. So anytime you go beyond that, I think that's a warning sign to yourself to go, oh, no, this is too many tabs. I should probably start closing a few of them. So another pro tip there. But my shortcuts list for the browser is relatively short, but I find myself using it every day. So one of them is Command L, or if you're on Windows, it would be Control L. And so this one activates the URL bar. So instead of hovering your mouse over the URL bar and then typing in the website or the search term, I would just press Command L or Control L on Windows, and it will activate it right away. So if I'm just like on a website and I want to go somewhere else, I would just type in Command L and then AE or something, and it would go to asianefficiency.com, right? Or if I want to go to Facebook, I would just type in Command L, type in F, and then hit enter, and it will usually go to Facebook right away. And so those are some ways I use that. Another keyboard shortcut I really like is Command T or Control T on Windows. So this is opening up a new tab. So I'm a big tab user myself, but I usually like to limit to like five or six, seven maybe at most. And then once you have a bunch of tabs open, you can use Command 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like Brooks just mentioned, to kind of like navigate around. And so that's one thing I like to use. Another one, and Brooks saves this one for me, so I could share it with all of y'all, because I actually learned this from him and it changed my life, is Shift Command T. So if you're on Windows, it would be Shift Control T. And what this does is, I'm sure you've been in a situation before, you go, all right, let me close this browser tab. And then moments later you go, oh no, like I need that browser tab again. What was that website? What was that URL again? And you go, oh man, I wish I knew what that was. Well, luckily for you, if you type in Shift Command T or Shift Control T on Windows, it will actually open up the last closed browser tab. And if you close multiple ones, you just keep pressing it, and it will open up the last few browser tabs that you closed. So highly recommend you use that one. I would say try it out now, because then you create that habit of knowing that keyboard shortcut. Whereas anytime you close one, just type in Shift Command T or Shift Control T, and it will do that for you. And then the last one that I like to use is Shift Command J or Shift Control J to open up the Downloads tab. So if you ever want to access all the files that you've downloaded, just type in Shift Command J. You can easily access stuff as well there. So those are some of my favorite keyboard shortcuts.
Yeah, Franklin in the live stream mentioned Control Shift T as well. And yeah, so it's funny, even though you learned this shortcut from me, and once you get in the habit of using this shortcut, it will seriously change your browser life, because so often we either intentionally or unintentionally close a browser tab, and like you said, we want to get back to it. And I use it every day. One thing I did not know though is that it is you can use it multiple times to reopen multiple browser in the order that you close them. I actually had no idea that you could do it more than one time. So I learned something. I learned something today too. I did not know that. That's super cool.
As you can tell, I've closed a lot of browser tabs with big regrets.
Mistakes were made.
All right, so that is our third round of recommendations here. So now we have like 6 tips already for you in order to use the browser in the most Asian efficient way, but we got 4 more for you, so don't go away just yet. So round number 4, and my recommendation here is to use the bookmark bar. So I kind of mentioned it earlier. If you have a set of website that you use almost every day, that you access every single time you open up the browser, I highly recommend you use the bookmark bar feature. So what this is, if you're unfamiliar with this, is I'm sure you're familiar with bookmarks, right? You can just save websites into a list, and you can kind of click on it by going to bookmarks at the top, and you get this pull down menu, and then you click on it. Well, the bookmark bar is kind of like that bar underneath the URL bar, where it can house a list of websites that you frequent. And so I would recommend that you put all your favorite websites that you frequently go to on that bookmark bar, and then change the order as you wish. And so that way, one, it makes it really easy to find the websites that you want to access frequently, right? That's one thing. Also, you can use folders on there as well. So you can have a folder on your bookmark bar. And so, for example, you could have a folder, say, work, and then all the websites related to work are in there. And then you can access stuff there quickly. You can have another folder called startup, and you have all the pages there related. You can have another folder called SOPs, and then it has a bunch of links to different SOPs that you might frequently use, or documents or whatever, right? And so you can have folders on the bookmark bar as well. So I highly recommend you go check that out. And if you want to take it up a notch even further, you can use something like Keyboard Maestro, which is an external tool, not related to the browser necessarily, but you can use that as well to launch certain websites very quickly as well. And also, you mentioned this kind of earlier, Brooks, but what a lot of people don't know is, especially in Chrome, if you go to the settings, there's an advanced setting called On Startup. And what you can say is, anytime I launch my browser, open these 2 or 3 websites. And then, so for example, anytime you log in or open up a browser, you could say, hey, open up my email accounts, open up my calendar, open up this specific page or this Google Sheet or spreadsheet or whatever you frequently use. So anytime you launch it, it will just be there, right there where you need it. So that's something you definitely want to explore as well. And it also applies to different profiles. So you can get even more advanced and tricky if you wanted to there.
Yeah, and like you said, you can use third-party tools for this. Giacomo in the live stream asks, what about a set of automation to automatically open a bunch of tabs? So if you want it to do, like you said, if you want it to do it every time you open a browser, you can definitely open it with a set of specific tabs. Or you can use a tool like Keyboard Maestro, like Alfred. Alfred is what I use for this, or like Auto Hotkey on Windows. I believe you can do that with as well. So you can have different commands to open different sets of browser tabs. I do that all the time. And I'm a big fan of using the bookmark bar as well. I don't use folders, but it's so funny that you listed this as a tip, because I was just thinking about this the other day, that I should start doing that, because I think there are some folders I could make for how I do it, and I think it would be more organized. Another tip, if you do use a tool like Alfred, you can access I'm not sure about Launchbar, but with Alfred for sure, you can access your Chrome or Safari bookmarks using Alfred or Chrome. So if you want to use like special commands or keyboard shortcuts to launch specific bookmarks on your bookmark bar or whatever, you can do that, which might sound funny. It seems weird that typing it would be faster than just clicking it. But if you have your hands on the keyboard as well, at least I personally find it fast. And I do this all the time with specific browser bookmarks.
Yeah, I just checked. Launchbar has that as well. It can access all the browser bookmarks. So whether it's Chrome, Safari, Firefox, whatever you need. So for those of you who are keyboard junkies, definitely go check that out as well.
All right, so my next tip for this round is, this would be an extension, but it's a one-click way to add tasks to your task manager. So many task managers have either official or unofficial plugins or extensions out there that will let you, for example, if you're on a web page, you can click a button in your browser and it will automatically add the information and a link to that page to your task manager. So for example, Todoist, I believe it's one that they put out that you can add to Chrome or Safari or the different browsers. And so you click one button, it will open up a little window, and then you can add it straight to your Todoist. OmniFocus, there is one for Safari and one for Chrome as well. These are unofficial ones. The one I use one, this is kind of weird. I'm linking to one in the show notes for Chrome. It's not the one that I personally use. The one that I personally use seems to have disappeared from the web store. So I think the one that I'm linking to is kind of like a replacement for it. But either way, just having some sort of plugin that will automatically let you capture actionable things from the web, I use all the time for when we're looking at, say, some sort of a ticket or something's broken or something like that. I just click the OmniFocus button in my web browser. It pops up a window, and then I save it to my OmniFocus. So it takes that capture piece of productivity, makes it really fast and easy.
Yeah, and since it's built into the browser, it usually works pretty well, and then you don't have to use like a third-party tool for that. So even something like PopClip could do something like that, but then you would still have to use your mouse to like hover over something and then select it, and then right-click on it with PopClip or let it appear, and then select that button. So this is a lot faster as well. And I use it all the time with OmniFocus as well. So definitely recommend you try to, in some shape or form, integrate your browser with your task manager, because you'll find that oftentimes you'll want to use that particular web page or something. So instead of just storing the URL as a note in your task, you can actually have like sections of stuff selected and then put into your task manager as well. So you can easily reference it without actually opening up the browser and checking out that URL. So definitely recommend it there. And so whatever to-do app you use, go look into it, whether they have some sort of extension or plugin for your browser. Definitely worthwhile checking out there. Yep. All right, Brooks, let's go to our last round of recommendations here. So it'd be number 9 and then number 10 for me. What's that for you here?
All right, so I'm going to go mobile browsing for my final tip. And this is a tip I learned not too long ago, but I find it really, really helpful. And it's a way that you can close all of your open tabs in your mobile browser. So whether that's on iOS, Android, iPhone, iPad, whatever. Somehow closing tab, at least for me, I find closing tabs on mobile really, really annoying, especially since over time, you tend to build up a bunch of different open tabs. Sometimes I just like to close them all at once instead of sitting there tap, tap, tap. So what you do is on iOS in Safari, you tap and hold the bottom right icon, which is the open tab button. And so you tap and hold that, and then some options will pop up, and you can close a specific tab, but there's also an option to close all like 13 tabs, it will say. And so, yeah, you can just tap that and it will just close them all at once. On Android, I believe the way you do it is similar. You go to you tap the switch tabs button, and then there's going to be like a more option, and you just from there you can close all tabs. I don't have my Android phone. It's on my bookshelf behind me. I meant to grab it before recording, but I'm pretty sure that's how you do it. So either way, for sure, there's a way to do it. So for whatever platform you use, find the way to close all tabs at once. It just makes life a lot easier.
I didn't know that. And so as you were sharing that, I was looking at my phone and I just posted it in our little chat here. And it says close all 134 tabs on my iPhone. I was like, oh, oops.
So obviously Tan needed this tip.
Clearly I need this one. Yeah, 130. It's like, especially when you go through your email and you click a link, it will open up a new tab on your Safari. And so it's really easy to stack up all these tabs, and whether it's not more energy efficient or not to have fewer tabs, I'm not 100% sure. But for a lot of people, it's very gratifying to close all the tabs at the end of the day or after a session, and you're like, okay, let me clear everything out, clear to neutral. But then anytime you check email and click on the link, it will open up a new tab and so on, right? Or you're browsing social media, you want to, instead of using the browser that's built in the app, you want to use it in Safari or the browser that you use, and then that creates a new tab and so on. So yeah, not proud that I had 134, but clearly needed that and felt very gratifying to close all of them. So thank you, Brooks. I learned something here today as well. All right, so my last tip here for today, if you want to be more agent efficient, is this is actually a plugin. And especially if you're an Amazon shopper like I am, where you buy like 90% of the stuff you buy online on Amazon, there's a plugin called Review Meta. So we've mentioned this a few times on the podcast, so you might have heard of this, but I'm sure you've seen some of this appear on Amazon purchases before, where there might be some fake reviews. And this has become more common now on Amazon, unfortunately, where there are a lot of fake reviews on certain products, especially if the product has like thousands of reviews. It's very common to find fake reviews amongst the reviews that are in there. And so what this plugin does is, again, it's called Review Meta. What it does is it will try to figure out all the reviews that things are fake, and then give you an accurate score, what the average score is of all the star ratings that a product received on Amazon. So typically when you look at a product, based on the star rating, you might see like 4 stars or 5 stars or 4.5 stars or whatever, right? Then Review Meta, when you're visiting an Amazon product, the plugin, when it's like on top of your browser, it will show you a new score. Without actually clicking on it, you can just see the score on the top right corner of your browser, and it will say like, oh, this is a 3.7 or something. And then if you want to click on that icon, then it will then display, all the research it has done, the analysis, and show you like, oh, these seem like fake reviews. And based on all the scoring we've done, this is actually the accurate score of the product. And so you can quickly see if these, reviews are legitimate or not, and if this is a product that you should buy. And so it's kind of unfortunate that you kind of need this for certain Amazon purchases. I'm not saying that I use this all the time or look at it for every single Amazon purchase, but whenever it's like a big purchase and there's a lot of reviews on there and I'm like trying to figure out like which one to buy, I would use this plugin to kind of like make a comparison. So definitely check out Review Meta.
Yeah, I learned about that on the podcast while we were recording. We were talking about some product and I mentioned it had a bunch of reviews and a high star, and you're like, whoa, 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 you need to run that through Review Meta first before you start using that as a determiner. And it is funny, like after a while, you start to get a sense for when reading reviews when they're legit or not, which is fine if you're just reading a few of them, but it's not really helpful if there's like 4,000 reviews. So yeah, a plugin like Review Meta is really handy for for at least getting a better idea if this thing is as really as popular and highly rated as you think it is.
All right, so we have 5 rounds of browser hacks here for you and 10 tips in total, 5 from Brooks and 5 from myself. But we have a lot of smart people following the Productivity Show, including Dojo members who are community members of Asian Efficiency and TPS Plus subscribers. So Brooks, I know you collected a few tips and strategies and browser hacks from those group of collective smart people that you want to share here. Would you mind sharing a few of them here with all of us here?
Yeah, so we got some great suggestions from our Dojo members and TPS Plus members. Some submitted ahead of time and some I captured on the live stream. I just copied and pasted them. So I'll just quickly go through them. So Matt recommended a plugin called Stop the Madness, so, which is a great name, but it's not just an ad blocker. It stops like all the hijacking and annoying things. You know, sometimes browsers disable certain feature or websites disable certain features of your browser, like copy and paste or whatever. It gets rid of a lot of the tracking, and it's just something that lets you take control back of your browser and keeps your privacy. So Stop the Madness is one. Both Alice and William recommended using Control or Command plus and minus to make text bigger and smaller on a page. Like I use this all the time, and I feel like the older you get, the more helpful this tip is. It's just really handy to like blow up a page really big to get the text, especially if you have your second monitor off to the side a bit more. It can be really handy for that. And if you want to reset it, just hit Control or Command 0 and it will reset it back to the original settings. Alice also shared a great Chrome extension, which I had never heard of, but it's a great idea. It's called Event Merge for Google Calendar. And I know I personally have this issue where sometimes you're subscribed to a bunch of different calendars and you'll have a meeting that shows up on a bunch of them. Like maybe it'll be on a team calendar and your personal calendar and maybe like another calendar. And so sometimes the same meeting will show up 3 times or 2 times. Well, what this plugin will do is when you're looking at Google Calendar, it merges them together into one thing. So it's just a lot less visual clutter. So that's cool. Kimberly recommended the one-click extensions manager. So this is a way to very easily, this is kind of meta, but this is a way to very easily turn on and off all of these plugins and extensions we've been talking about just with one click. So it can make it easy to just have a more focused experience or turn it on and off. So that's what Kimberly recommended. And then Joel gave a great tip, which is something we didn't mention, which is this, but you might have been able to figure out, is the shift modifier can actually be combined with a bunch of different shortcuts to do the reverse of whatever you're doing. So Tan gave a great example. Command or Control T will open a tab. Shift Command T will reopen the last one. So basically using Shift can a lot of times do the reverse of what you think. So there's a lot of great tips. Also Control Tab will navigate right through your tabs. And then of course Shift Command or Control Tab will go to the left through your tabs. So those are just some great tips that members of the Dojo and TPS Plus have shared.
Awesome. Well, those are great. And so if you made it this far, I mean, there's just so many tips, strategy, plugins, recommendations that we have here today. But as always, we want to make sure that things are simple and actionable for you. So what we recommend you do next is just to pick one browser hack that you want to try today. Maybe it's a keyboard shortcuts. Maybe there's a browser extension that really stood out to you and you go, oh, that's the one I need. Just pick one of the things that we recommended here today. try to implement it right now, roll with it for a while, see the benefits of it. And then once you think, you know what, I got this covered, then maybe listen back to this episode or go back to the show notes and try to think of the next one that you want to start implementing. Because if you try to do all of them at the same time, chances are it's not going to stick with you. We recommend that you just do one thing at a time here. So again, you can find links to everything that we just talked about today in the show notes. You can go to theproductivityshow.com/334.